Okay, we're gonna get real today. Literally, the pursuit of money, making money. It kind of sucks and no one talks about it. Literally, you're at the helm of everyone else's schedule. Your time is completely monopolized. What you find is, it's like your life isn't even your own anymore and it leaves you extremely unhappy. That's exactly what we're gonna address in this video today. We're gonna talk about that balance between time, money, and happiness, how to optimize it. But before we do that, if you like my content, maybe you love my content, click on that like button, subscribe to my channel, click that little notification bell so you can be up to date on all my new content. But let's hop to it. Let's talk about your time, your money, your happiness, and how to win at the game of life. Get down to it, time and money, balancing it out is pretty freaking cruel. Because here's how it starts, right? We're younger, we want to prove ourselves, we want to show that, we're useful in society, we want to be successful, we want to make money, we want to be independent eventually. So we're ready to work like a dog. We're ready to work 24/7. We're looking to get clients, move up the corporate ladder, whatever happens to be. And it's funny because we start out with all the time in the world. All we want to do is fill up our time. Then the funny thing happens is we do get busy. We do get those clients. We do move up the corporate ladder. We get all this responsibility, and all we can think about is we wish we had more free time. It's like this cruel, vicious cycle that happens over and over again. And again, it's really something nobody really talks about. And what I've found is, I run a firm here out of New York City, Payne Capital Management. I manage over $1 billion. I've been doing this for 20 years. Is the clients that I have, the ones that are the wealthiest, you probably heard this before, they're not necessarily the happiest. But the ones that have financial independence, and maybe they do have some wealth, but they're dictating their own schedule. They have plenty of free time. They work hard too, but because they have that balance, they tend to have a lot more happiness than the ones that may be the wealthiest, but at the helm of, again, everyone else's time, everyone else's agenda. And I think it happens very, very early here in the US. Like, I started out in software sales here in New York City. I was on the phone cold calling 12 hours a day. It was an insane schedule, and all I wanted to do was get clients, improve my worth. In fact, the sales managers had it wired so that, like, if you hit your sales number, they would take you out to this like fancy seafood dinner. I remember distinctly. It would be like these big plates stacked on each other of like lobster, shrimp. We'd have steaks. And it was kind of like, hey, here's a piece of the good life. If you work really hard, you can have all these amazing material, and that's kind of like success. That's what success looks like. And you start to ingrain this in your mind that it's all about working hard so you can enjoy the quote unquote good life. Whether that's a really nice car, that's those really nice dinners, or you have the best material things, whether it's the clothes that you're wearing, and you just assume automatically that obviously is success, that obviously equals happiness. And it's a kind of a weird experience because I found this in my own career, and I decided, yes, I want to have financial independence. I want to live life on my terms. I don't want to have a boss. And it was actually the coolest thing I ever did because I actually did get that freedom. I didn't have anyone telling me what to do anymore. I was getting clients. I was on that upward trajectory of success, but it hadn't taken over my whole life. In fact, it was so crazy. I was doing really well in my career. I was actually even able to go away and play in a rock and roll band for 3 months, not even be in my office, still run my business while I was on the road, and have all these other crazy experiences, living in Eastern Europe, going out and like playing clubs every night, but doing my job during the day. And it was like a beautiful balance. But what starts to happen, and anyone who's successful can attest to this, is success begets success. My firm became more and more successful as I moved along, and I got to a point where I was getting tons of more business. I couldn't keep up with all the business that was coming in the door, and it started to take up more and more of my time. And mentally you're thinking, I've got to take advantage of this. I've never had business come in the door like this before. I've got to put so much time into this that you start to realize after a while this is all you're doing. And I can attest to this with my other friends in their 30s, that whether they got up the ranks of the corporate ladder, all of a sudden they're the managers as opposed to being managed in their companies, more responsibility. And if we all admitted it, we were probably a little happier when we were younger and freer and had more time to hang out and have a lot of fun. But those days were starting to wane because our careers became so much more important. became so much more a burden of our time, and success became a burden as opposed to something to be like excited about and strive for. There becomes this burden of success, and it actually becomes to a point where like it actually takes away from your joy and the fun that you have in life. So, if you're at that level now where you are starting to enjoy that success, you're going to start to find that happen. If you're already there, you know what I'm talking about. It becomes this really crazy place where you thought you were going to be really, really happy, but instead, all you find is you're more stressed, you've got more responsibility, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking about what happened to what I want to do with my life. It seems like it's everyone else's agenda, not my own. So you're probably thinking to yourself, that's great, Ryan. Sounds awesome. Sure, I'd love to have more time. I'm so busy with my career. That's an impossibility. Great video. I can't use any of this practically. Well, that's what this part of this video is about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down 3 different exercises that you can do to start identifying where the issues are, what's holding you back from actually dictating your own schedule, your own life, having that proverbial freedom, which equates to happiness. The more free you are, the more you dictate your schedule, statistically it's been proven, the more happy you are. And the first exercise that I recommend, I call this your ego audit. This is where you give yourself like a hard look at the things that you do for what I would call superficial reasons. Because you think it's something that you should do because it's helping you get ahead in life, but you really don't like it. And deep down inside, if other people weren't watching, you probably wouldn't do it, okay? And that could be from having like the nicest car, being part of the right club. And I'll give you an example of this. Back in my late 20s, early 30s, I joined the New York Athletic Club, which at that time, that was kind of like a status symbol. There were people there that were probably of a higher, echelon in society or wealth that I was from. And, they played racquetball and they did a lot of athletic type of events outside of work. And that's how you had camaraderie, and ideally you would get into these circles and everybody in those circles would love you and eventually want to invest their money with you. But the reality of it is, I hate racquetball. I hate hanging out with dudes playing sports, or women, in my spare time and going to this club that was like a good 20, 30 minutes from my apartment to quote unquote schmooze and go to these cocktail hours. And I didn't like any of it. I actually like to do more artistic stuff in my free time. Not like, hey, let's go lift weights together or let's go play racquetball together. I don't like it at all. And this club cost me a couple grand. At the time was a lot of money. And I felt this obligation to go. And I felt this obligation to be like, look, you're trying to push your career along. Let's do this. Well, it ended up being just a complete waste of money. I hated going. I didn't enjoy it at all. And when I did my own ego audit, I realized, you know what? It's not worth it. That's $4 grand I could save every year. That's a lot of time that I could just be doing things that I enjoy, as opposed to quote unquote climbing that ladder, that societal ladder that would be, making me much better in the eyes of society. And that's a good example of that. And there's many examples that you can look at in your own life where are you really doing it because you like it or because your ego says that this is important, that you should do this. Now, let's talk about that second audit, or that second exercise that I want you to do, and that's what I call a delegation audit. Now, for some of you, this is gonna be really, really hard. If you're a micromanager, you love to control everything, well, guess what? You're gonna hate this exercise. I'm warning you right now. Now, I actually love to delegate. I do not like to do everything. I don't like to have control of everything. Delegation is one of my joys of life. And all you want to do is look at every task that you do. And the way to do this is sit down on a daily basis and look at everything that you're doing, and look at everything that you're doing that someone else could actually do for you. And I'll give you an example of this. When I started my career in the wealth management field, I worked for a big firm, Merrill Lynch, and I was one of the younger guys in the office, and everyone had a client associate that they shared. So we all had the same person they shared. So you always had a very limited amount of resources because your assistant was like 10 other people's assistant. It sucked. So I decided I'm gonna get myself an intern. Nobody had an intern. Everyone was just like sad, bitching about the fact that we all had to share this client associate. But I actually hired an intern. It wasn't that expensive. They were in college for like 15 bucks an hour, whatever it was back then, inflation adjusted. And I gave them all my little tasks to do, and everyone looked at me weird, like, why does this young guy, who's not as successful as me, has their own personal assistant. It wasn't. It was just an intern. But they came in every single week, and I had an organized, task that they could do, that they could work on and take it off my plate, because I took the time to sit down and realize, well, if somebody else could do some of these menial tasks that I'm doing every day, it would free up a lot of time. And the funny thing is, it's such a common sense thing to do, but most of us don't do it. We feel like we have to do it ourselves. Or maybe you think like, well, I'm not that far from my career yet, where I could even have an intern. I was only a couple years into the business, maybe 2-3 years in the business, and believe me, college labor is not that expensive. And if you think about all the time that you get back because you've delegated out all these menial tasks, even if it costs you some money, you're probably getting ahead if you're actually to look at it and look at your ROI, return on investment. So delegation is key. The earlier, the younger you are, you get into this habit, the easier it is to do. The first time you delegate, it's very hard. I'm gonna warn you about that. You're gonna be like, someone can't do the task as well as I can do it. That scares me. But what you'll find is, and they won't do it as well as you at first, because you probably do it perfectly, but even if they do it 80% as well as you do initially, or even 70%, it's gonna give you back so much time. And this is another concept that when you think about is time is more valuable than money. Why? Because there's unlimited money out there you can make. There's unlimited money out there that you can create. And heck, the government's printing money every day now, so there's even more money than ever. Bad joke. Time is limited. It's finite. We only have so much time. It's way more valuable. So every minute you get back, every hour you get back, even if you spend a little money for it, is a huge return on investment. And you have to start thinking about that. Getting time back is the best investment you can literally have. And lastly, the third audit, if you don't know what an audit is, Google it, you can figure it out, or exercise that I want you to run is what I call an effectiveness audit. This is the pro level audit, and this is the one that's gonna really basically give you time back, but also, most importantly, it's gonna propel you forward in a more effective, more powerful way than you're probably doing already. And I am the most guilty of all this when it comes to effectiveness. I do way too much that's probably not that effective. I'm guilty of this more than anybody else. I literally am doing this YouTube video right now, and I do YouTube videos every week. I have a podcast I do every week. I have a radio show, I do it every week. I do media appearances every week. And on top of that, oh yeah, I also run a wealth management firm, but I know you don't feel sorry for me. But the point is, not everything I'm doing is probably the most effective to push me forward to where I want to go. And on top of that, it's probably draining a lot more time that I could be doing, having fun, relaxing, being independent, doing all the things that I dream about doing, just like you and everyone else watching this. So the one thing that I did in my own business that was hugely powerful and effective, impactful, however you want to phrase it, is I used to have hundreds of clients that I would service myself. I had a very good process. I'd meet with these clients, dozens of people every week, go to their office, they'd come in the office, I'd do their financial planning, help them with their investing. And to some extent it worked really, really well because I would do a good job, people liked me, they would refer their friends, then their friends would refer their friends, and I had the basic word of mouth, grassroots business growing, which is great. Nothing wrong with that, but it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and again, I was really beholden to everyone else's whims, and as opposed to having the freedom that I want. So what we ended up doing is this radio show. And what I realized with radio is I could give all my same philosophies that I gave every individual client about investing, financial planning in an hour, and I could do it over the airwaves to 10,000 people. Instead of a couple dozen people a week, 10,000 people could hear my message, hear about my firm, learn about it, and maybe want to come and do business with us. Now, here's what I love about effectiveness when it's done right. An hour radio show takes a lot less time than meetings with dozens of clients every week, which takes hours and hours of time and way more effort, and it's much less effective than literally an hour of radio talking to 10,000 people is literally a way more effective strategy, and most importantly of all, gives me way more time back than I had before. So the question I want you to ask yourself is, like, what in your own business or your own personal life are you doing right now that's just not as effective as trying another strategy or trying another way to do what you're doing right now that takes less time and has way more impact or effectiveness that you're not doing? This is huge, and again, this is why I call it the pro level, because I don't care if you're in your first year of business or you're 10, 15 years in, this little audit could change your life in so many different ways. It's like you're killing two birds with one stone, more time and more effectiveness to move ahead. That's like the magic formula. So I want you to do that. I want you to go into your own personal life, your business life, and find where you can actually exploit something like I exploited with radio. What's that radio for you that is literally going to be a game changer for your personal and your professional life? Okay, so what I really want to impress upon today in this video, and I think it's like, I don't want to say it from a cliche perspective, but obviously money doesn't buy happiness, and time is the most valuable commodity that we have, period. It's finite. Money is limitless. So I want you to remember that as you're thinking about how you're starting to plan your life out, how you're starting to get to a point where you're trying to find happiness, you're trying to find success. It's all very, very hard to do all these things and balance them. But I think the one thing that I've learned, the one thing I can pass on to you is through my experience as a business owner, as someone who helps people, again, achieve financial independence, it's so critical to be able to dictate your own schedule. Money helps you to do that, but also being so mindful of your time and what's taking away from your time is one of the most important things that you can possibly do. And I can tell you from experience, again, that really can be the difference between being extremely happy, fulfilled in your life, and on the flip side, having all the money in the world, all the quote-unquote success in the world, but still being miserable. And these are all important things to think about as we're building this journey. And as I build out my YouTube channel, and I'm going to get into depth on the investments, on what you need to do to actually achieve financial independence. But these are all part of that journey, all part of the process. I hope you dig my video today. And if you like my content, you're feeling it, don't be shy. Click on that like button, subscribe to my channel. If you click that little notification bell, I'm literally having content come out every week so you can be notified of it. As always, stay loose and keep an open mind.